So,
All right. So now the last aspect, tactics, team, whatever. Is there any positives that you see? Was there anything that was working tactically or we're trying here, folks.
I know, we're trying. So last year, did anything work tactically? Is that your question?
Yes.
Correct. Was there anything that,
again, possession for possession's sake, we dominated.
We had a lot of passes.
We had a lot of completed passes.
Even some passes. We were in the attacking third a lot. We weren't in the box a lot, but we were in the attacking third a lot.
Attacking third a lot, right? Yeah. So okay, we've got possession. We're controlling the possession, making completed passes,
controlling tempo,
and on the offensive side of the field, and even more guilty than the Frank DeBoer era, which is very guilty of doing a lot of lateral.
Yeah.
I think the downside was we didn't see the results. And supposedly, and this is where Pineda is patting everybody's back a little bit, that there was a lot of goal opportunities in terms of the XG and the data. But I don't think from the eyeball test that's true. I think you can only say that we had offensive possession tactically in their half. I don't think we had a ton of great chances.
Carmen, what about you? Anything tactically you saw that gives you positives?
I got to be honest, no. I feel like Mikey is really reaching, and I appreciate the effort.
Good effort.
I'm trying.
You did a good job, but honestly, as I sit here, I honestly can't say I saw anything real positive from last year.
Yeah, we always talked about the problem seemed to be that the formation accentuated the weaknesses. The fact that Gutman was terrific, good for him, but no offense. If Gutman ends up being the best player, almost by definition, that's a problem because that means that it's not Almada or Moreno or Araujo.
So I think this is a good transition to the Chattanooga FC game.
Yeah. Well, I want to talk. Can we talk about the additions a little bit more?
Yeah.
And whether or not you think those additions could, the whole point of Pineda is he got rid of the people who were problems, and he supposedly they have more players. The new guys should be the guys he wants at some level. So does it work?
Well, let's start with the Papa Giorgio up front,
right?
And there's two things, right? And I'm actually okay with if Martinez is a poison pill, or you don't trust that he's ever going to get back to the form pre knee injury.
Yep.
Okay, I'm good. Move on from him. We still don't know why it ended like it did, and we had to buy him out, which seems silly. I think we should have been nasty and never said we should have been nasty. We should have been cold-blooded, but that's just me, by the way, with Joseph Martinez, who I love, by the way.
Yeah,
who I think should still be at the club, but should we have let him go to Miami and buy his contract out? Ridiculous. No. It's going to piss me off so much if he does.
It does say something that, there weren't a lot of fishing from other MLS clubs, right? It's interesting. And analytically wise, his goals per minute was pretty good, right? And so you would have thought somebody would have wanted to take a flyer on that and made a decent bid for him, but
yeah, I think
not.
I think Miami sees he's in the same conference. He's going to be playing us. He'll be fired up. I can't believe we let him go to Miami, man. I think he's going to have a big chip on his shoulder, and it's a worry. Well, we're going to see Miami 2 times this season, right? And then one more in the League's Cup.
That's correct. Right. They're in our division, in our group in the League's Cup. Yeah. Okay. So now you bring in.
So we bring in the Greek and
Giacomakis. What do you think?
I'm certainly not disappointed. I am optimistic.
So let me review for the listeners a little bit about Giacomakis. So Giacomakis is Greek. He plays for the Greek national team. Gus Poyet is the head coach of the Greek national team. You must remember Gus Poyet from Premier League days in Chelsea. He was a terrific player. And he says, no matter where Giacomakis goes, he's my guy. He's the starting forward on the Greek national team. And for those of you, before you go say, Greek is the word, blah, 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 blah. Greece won the European Championships not too long ago.
That's right.
Right? So,
the Greeks can play some ball.
Yeah, they're not so bad. Anyway, so He's wanted by them. So he came from the Eredivisie. He played for Velmo.
And that's where he had some good numbers, right?
Yeah, so he scored 26 goals his last season in the Eredivisie while his team got relegated. So, I mean, now Dutch league is notoriously a goal scoring league. A lot of people score a lot. You know, like Luis Suarez came to the Premier League from the Dutch league and he scored like 30 something or whatever. A couple of Americans have scored you know, some decent numbers in the Eredivisie. It's a scoring league. But when you're getting relegated and you're by far the leading goal scorer in the team, everybody's just going to be marking you. Right. And he still scored 26 goals. So
yeah, and the MLS is a scoring league.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot to say that the MLS and the Eredivisie are similar. So anyway, he then transfers to Celtic. Very good Scottish team. They won the title last year, right? And he ends up being their second leading scorer. They have a terrific the Japanese or Korean player. Forgetting his name now. But anyway, who ended up as their leading scorer at like 25 for Celtic. But he still scored 19 goals last year for Celtic as their second sort of fiddle.
Yeah.
So that's 2 consecutive seasons in good leagues that are equivalent to MLS where he basically scored 20 goals.
Yeah.
So that's promising.
Absolutely.
And he's 28 years old. So now, what do you
prime.
think he could do for Pineda?
You know, I think he's got to do over 20 goals in my mind to fulfill the gap that Joseph potentially could have filled. That's what I'd like to see. 20 plus. What's your number in your head? Do you have one?
Honestly, if he gets 15,
mm-hmm.
we're probably a playoff team.
Yeah.
I mean, if you take the exact team from last year and you add 15 goals from a striker position, that might be enough.
Yeah. Because Joseph only had 9 with his. Yeah. I agree. So, but I would want to see 20 to feel happiness,
to feel that joy.
If he gets 20, then you know. But so the thing is, let's not even just talk about the number of goals he's going to get. So, you know, he's a bigger guy. He's 6 foot tall, right? He's a little broad, right? So the question is he the kind of guy who can get on a Brooks Lennon cross?
Yeah, I would certainly think he could get on the end of a cross for sure.
Yeah.
So the question is the cross, as I was just talking about before, delivered at the right time? If he's going to be leading the line and pressing it, and can we get that ball in when the defense is reeling backwards versus having it be static, right? And, you know, we've got to avoid that, right? And if we are possession for the possession's sake and cross a bunch of balls in and they're really not that dangerous because the defense can kind of predict them, and then the stats kind of say, oh, well, we had a cross that was in the box and that was highly dangerous. Bullshit. That is what my fear is going to be.
I mean, Pineda has said that those crosses are real, genuine goal-scoring opportunities. And I would argue that if they are, then he should be able to score a bunch of them. And if that's so, you know.
Why wouldn't Joseph be able to score?
If Pineda is,
Cisneros?
You know, I don't know why not. But if Pineda is right, and I'm not sure he is, if Pineda is right, then Brooks Lennon now becomes one of the leading assist guys in the whole MLS. And, you know, Giakoumakis ends up being one of the, you know, the leading scorers off of that, you know, gets up in the goal scoring statistics. Now, you know, one thing I will say is that I argued, we talked about it, you know, what are you looking for? This team needed a guy, not a, you know, honestly, if you gave me a choice of getting another Thiago Almada type, and we may have talked about this on the podcast even, who's an up-and-coming, you know, 17, 18-year-old potential superstar, I would have said I would rather have a guy who's 28, who scored 20 goals in a decent league the last 2 years. Yeah. Mm-hmm. This is what this team needs now. We need a guy who scores now, because Thiago Almada ain't going to be here certainly more than a year, right? I mean, Araujo... You know,
so what do you think the DP deal is? Because Lagoe said he's going to be very conservative on, you know, the long term, but also trying to play for the short term and make sure they make the right decisions here. So, you know, hopefully we didn't kill ourselves, do you know anything about the financials that are likely to happen and the duration of the DP contract?
So what's very clear is that they're signing into a DP contract, which is, so we have 3 DP spots. They're on unlimited salaries. They don't count towards the cap, right? But he's being signed at a very, very low, just barely DP kind of salary, which means that they can use Tam and Gam to buy him down a little bit. And then if they have the opportunity, let's say a year from now, to get another DP, they want to go out and sign whoever, then they still can.
Which is what they did with Moreno, correct?
Yes, exactly what they did with Moreno.
Okay.
And that's what they said. They had Moreno, and it still allowed them to go out and buy Thiago Almada.
Right.
So I think that's smart.
Do you recall the youth DP under 23 thing? Isn't there like some?
There's a youth special spot if they're younger. Then it can't
younger than 21, right?
Yeah.
That's like, is it a DP thing? I can't remember.
Not absolutely sure.
I've lost my memory on how that works, but it feels like we haven't maybe used that slot either for the under 21.
So I don't. What I was going to ask you about.
I don't know.
You mentioned Gareth Lagerwey, right? He's the new general manager. He came from Seattle. He has now built 2 really terrific and MLS winning sides at 2 different clubs, right? Because before that he was with Utah. Was it Salt Lake City?
Salt Lake,
or is it Colorado? It was one of those Pacific West clubs, and they built one of the title seasons that those 2 teams had. Anyway, he has said that, what's the expectations? He says home playoff game. That's the expectations.
I like
What do you think about that?
Well, I mean, it should be a very realistic expectation for the talent we have, again, which hasn't changed a whole lot other than Joseph Martinez exiting the building. And now that we've got this player that I believe can be in the same ballpark as Joseph, I think that that's right where we should be.